He's talking about World War II because of food. Really?
The role of food that took that the role one of the reasons why is World War II, and I really subscribe to that. In itself, the war was a bunch of battles but actually why? I mean, what made Hitler invade Russia, which was a very stupid decision actually,
Yeah,
from
why?
a military point of view.
Why?
Well, one of the reasons was that one of his economic advisors wrote that actually Germany would not be able to feed themselves if they didn't expand into Russia. Ukraine, Russia, Poland were envisioned to be the land that Germany need to feed itself. So they were fighting the British, and the British still had the Americans behind them, and so they didn't have any problem with supplies. Furthermore, the British also had colonies that they could rely on to get food, import food from. So Germany didn't have any colonies. They had an army to feed, and they felt after World War One, when they were hungry and soldiers were starving, that they needed to actually annex the eastern territories into their empire in order to feed themselves. As you can see, there was some truth to it, because as we saw, the United States were very well fed. The British soldiers, there was never any hunger in Britain. There was hunger in other parts of the world. There was hunger in India, where 1.5 to 3 million people were estimated to have died because they didn't have enough food. They could have been supplied by the food that was grown in the Bengals or in we call it now. Takashi's-san is very often there. They always have flooding. No, the country, the Bengals, the East Pakistan. It's called Bangladesh. Yeah. Bangladesh was a food exporter to India, but the British Army refused to release their supplies to India to help the Indians who had a bad rice crop, because they thought they needed it for their soldiers, and as a result of that, 1.5 to 3 million Indians died because of the decision that Churchill made in World War One, and that's still one of the things that plays a role today. There's never been really apologized for by the British to the Indians. So that is something that is still lingering as a historic event that the British have not acknowledged to and apologized for to the Indians. So basically, this war and the role of resources also for Japan. They entered Korea, they entered Formosa, as they said, Taiwan. They went to Manchuria to actually feed their people. But Japan had a big problem, because different from the Americans, different from the Germans, they did not have enough food supplies. Actually, when I saw the numbers, it's estimated that more soldiers died of starvation than of actually gunfire. They were supposed to feed themselves, and there was not enough food to go around at that time. So that was also one of the reasons why Japan lost the war. So there was hunger in China, there was hunger in Russia, there was hunger in Japan, but the other countries were not hungry. Their soldiers were well fed, but there was also hunger in India. So this became a global conflict, and the reasons why some of these seemingly stupid strategic decisions of Hitler to invade Russia at the time, and starting a two-front war at the east and at the west, which some people tend to explain as a show of his grotesque thinking and his lack of strategic skills, was actually not so stupid when you put it into the context of the vision that there existed of what was necessary in order to keep the empire alive, which was Lebensraum, which is space to live and space to grow food, because food is of very high strategic value, and looking at it from the perspective of the Germans, England, they could import food from the United States, from their colonies, from everywhere. They had the whole Atlantic at their disposal, so it was actually from that perspective that Germany decided to invade Russia as a logical move in order to win the war, but it was also the first step towards the end of World War II. So I thought it was a very good explanation as to why these wars happen, and why certain decisions were made. Give a bigger picture. I also want to show something about the war and their leaders.
Actually, Japan was short of food.
Yes.
Really?
Very short of food. Let me see. Where was it? Here. This is about Japan.
Combat soldiers were as consistently hungry, however, as the Japanese. Japanese soldiers were expected to feed themselves and were not provided with field kitchens. Often, this meant that Japanese soldiers were fueled by little more than rice. And as the war turned against them, it became more and more difficult for Japanese troops to feed themselves. On Guadalcanal, the Japanese attempted to resupply their troops with floating barrels dropped from passing ships, but by December 1942, between 120 and 130 soldiers were dying of starvation every day. The Japanese commander there estimated that while 5,000 of his soldiers died in combat, 15,000 starved to death. Overall, it's estimated that more than 1 million of the 1.74 million Japanese military deaths were caused by starvation or malnutrition. Thanks, Thought Bubble. So a quick look at the history.
So the majority didn't die of gunfire, but of malnutrition. So when we were talking about, okay, why did Japan actually move into these territories like Southeast Asia, into Burma, into Indonesia? What could have been the
Well, they did.
role of resources?
Well, they expanded.
Well, it was not easy to get the food from China, right?
Actually, Japan needed food.
Well, they needed food very bad. That more, if these numbers are correct, the numbers that that he gives here, then more people died of starvation than, and then we're talking about soldiers, not about civilians. Talking about soldiers, and we are also that was also mentioned earlier in this video that the women working in the factories in Japan, they were on extremely tight rations, food rations. So they were also grossly underfed. Food played a very important role during
That was after World War II. Ration is not so strict under the World War II. And
what he says is that actually there were no field kitchens in the Japanese army.
Oh, this is the different issues there, especially Southern Island, and they invaded there, but all ships with food by submarine, American submarine. This is a major reason. That's the reason they didn't get any food. So many people dead. This is not this problem is procurement problem in Southern Island. Many people there, Southern Island. But Asia Pacific area is there no debt, no problem.
はい、皆さんこんにちは、雲野です。今日はですね、雲野塾の研修のプログラムをご紹介したいと思います。で、こういうふうなホームページありますけれども、ぜひですね、一度中身をご覧になっていただきたいと思います。今日はブーキューブさんのスタジオに来て、この収録をしておりますので、中身はこういうふうになってて、今最近ホットなね、グローバルリーダーの定義など書いてあります。で、特に経団連が作成しました留学すれば英語ができて専門性を持つというだけではですね、グローバルリーダーになれないとここに書いてありますようにですね、仕事ができる専門性を持つ英語ができるだけじゃなくてですね、私どもの塾ではリベラルアーツということと、それからもう一つは孫子の兵を、さらにはですね、日本の歴史というものを合わせて教えることによって、皆さんが海外の欧米の方々と、もしくは華僑圏の方々と正々堂々と渡り合えるような人物を育成しようというふうなことを考えています。ここに次のスライドが出ておりますけれども、ここに書いてありますのはですね、さらに、私どもの雲野塾の中身につきましてはですね、欧米の資料しか使っておりません。また実際に雲野塾は英語でやっておりますので、英語の講師がこう話しておりますけど、学習はですね、日本の歴史をまだ教えてますので、学習の午後はですね、日本のプログラムをしております。で、以前はこれ有料だったので、今はですね、実際に会場費も取っていただいておりませんで、毎回5000円ということで、朝9時から午後5時までやっておりますので、ぜひ皆さんですね、ご検討の上ご参加いただければと。英語のできない方もですね、学習の午後こういうふうな研修をしておりますので、ぜひご参加いただければというふうに思っておりますので、よろしくお願いします。で、ここにさらにですね、グループ討議とか実務の勘どころを教えると書いてありますけど、実際には私が10年ほどですね、欧米の新聞とか雑誌等をですね、集めてきた、もともと英語のベースでございますので、そうしたものをですね、50セッションのテーマに分けて資料作成しております。そういうことで、世界のオペレーション、もしくはカントリーリスクも含めてですね、しかも世界のトップの方々に対してもいろいろな分析とか洞察をしてですね、議論をしております。そういったことも含めてですね、今後ともよろしくお願いしたいと思います。以上で私の挨拶を終えますが、今回のこのビデオの収録にあたってはですね、V キューブさんのスタジオをお借りしてですね、お時間を頂戴して、このビデオを作成させていただきました。よろしくお願いします。どうもありがとうございました。